All right, so we are now live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's meeting for the Node-API meeting. We are on May 13th of 2022. Does anyone have any announcements that they would like to make before we begin our normal schedule? All right, then let me share my screen and we will go through the milestones. Share. All right, so we'll go through our normal agenda of going through the milestones and looking at issues and things like that. So the first item on the milestone list is the stale issues. Let's see if anything has been added. I added this one here, I guess, a couple days ago. Thread safe function should handle exceptions in async callbacks identical to Node itself. And I think I made a comment saying that it would be addressed by this PR. So let's go ahead and just open that one up and see. AgendaCast, I believe you were working on this one. Is there anything else that's needed, or can you just give us a little bit of status on this PR?
It's currently blocked for say failures on some certain platforms, and I may need to take a look at it so that we can get the CI passing.
Okay. Yes, I remember seeing this comment here. Okay, so hopefully you can take a look at this, and then if there's some issues that are platform specific, you can find them, and then we'd be able to merge. And then hopefully that would address this open issue.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a quick question about this PR. One of my concerns was that this PR is making base class, which we use outside of Node.js, is making it abstract. And I wonder if we can make sure that it's not abstract.
Which class is this? Do you recall?
I think I'm talking about Node-NV.
Node-MD?
If you look inside of this JS native API v8, so yeah, an API NV, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
And one of my concerns was actually that yeah, you look in this.
Which class? Which file?
JS native API v8.h.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's fixed or not. Legend Cass.
Sorry, what's your question?
I remember I left a comment before on this PR that this method to call finalizer, it made abstract in base class. In this NAPI NV.
Yeah, right. Since the problem here is that we have to we have something to do in the class inherited from the napi env in this case. So I'm not sure what your question is, but I made it abstract to allow the subclass to be called in the destructor, so that we can call some finalizers in the subclass.
Right, and the issue is like this class is used directly, like yeah. So Kevin, what's was actually line 98?
Yeah, I'm seeing this one here.
This call finalizer made abstract, and the issue is like this class is used directly by, like for example, we have today implementation for V8 DLL where we're using this Node API, and we're not able to use this class anymore because this method becomes abstract.
I see. Okay, and you're wondering why it was made completely abstract instead of also providing a default implementation like it did here.
Right. Like,
and I guess that's also what Gabe was saying here. There must be a default implementation for call finalizer because it can be used without Node.js. Why can Node and APIM cannot override what code may reside here?
right.
Okay. Legendikas, do you have any insight onto that?
Well, this PR is very. I didn't have time to take into this PR for a long time, so I guess I need to take a look at it while I fixing the CI failures. So hopefully I can post my comments later along with the CI fix.
Okay.
Could you have a look at like I have currently one PR, like a different PR, whatever I submitted about like a new APIs, and I have different approach. This method called finalizer are made there completely non-virtual, so it does not require to be inherited, and at least it has a way for us to use this base class without Node.js.
Do you know the PR number that you are talking about?
Yeah, if you search for my alias Vmoroz, VMOROZ. Yes, this one.
Oh, I was expecting the autocomplete to pop up, but okay. And then which one from here?
I think it's called like a split finalizers into two different types, like number 3 on the list.
I remember that one. Mm-hmm.
So just I wonder if, because I pretty much have changes around the same area, and I wonder if we can use approach like this. If you look on this, so technically the way it's done, I put the actual implementation where we call this error inside of this JS native API V8 internals, because this internals is something what we then there was the whole stuff being created for us to say we can use it outside of React Native. Oh, sorry, not Node.js. Sorry about it. Yeah, outside of Node.js in different contexts. We were saying this internals is something what people typically, this internals.header file, it should be typically provided by users of this API. And so, for example, I'm calling this set immediate from inside of this base class, but set immediate implementation is done inside of this internals.
I see. So then other engines that are implementing Node API would override this set immediate method to say however that needs to be done?
Right, right.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know that this API we discussed, and it's a little bit different. We kind of concerned about raising error, but I wonder if we can raise error kind of maybe similar way or something. But technically, everything what I'm asking, not to make this call finalizer abstract in this NAPI in V class, if it's possible to.
Okay. I think that when he tries to look at the CI failures, then I think possibly that would be able to a good time to look into that implementation. So
Yeah.
then for your
I may
reference,
need to pick up my memory too.
no worries. So for your reference, it is this split finalizers into two different types PR that we were looking at as well. All right. Anything else to discuss on this PR? Okay, then let's move on. Then we had this one, migration from NAND to object wrap. I think this is the one we were discussing about the proxy object.
Sorry, I didn't make any progress. Whatever I made this 2 weeks ago, like yeah, some initial sample, I didn't progress it. I'll work on this week.
Mm-hmm. Just to refresh my memory, you were trying to implement this with the existing APIs. Is that correct?
Yes. So technically, idea is that if you remember, just to refresh a little bit this topic, in None, they're using class which is available in the V8 API called object template.
Mm-hmm.
An object template allows people to have this proxy-like, define this proxy-like behavior. Where pretty much you can say, I have a, for example, getter, and this getter can receive your property name and as one of the parameters. So technically, the idea that you can have one native function which can serve maybe like multiple properties, or one setter function which can serve multiple properties. So proposal, as we discussed some times ago, like it seems like 3-4 weeks ago, proposal was we can use a normal JavaScript proxy object.
Right.
And I'm working on unit tests, which just demos how we can use existing Node API and use proxy object, JavaScript proxy object to achieve similar goals.
Right. Okay. So then on this here, you mentioned that you're just still working on unit tests. Is that correct?
Right. So technically, at this point, a unit test is passing a small kind of in runs. It just does not cover pretty much the whole proxy API. It just simply shows that you have, for example, a class, and class have a simple method, and how to call this simple method from native class using this proxy-based API. So in this case, you see this simple object is kind of is example.
Right.
I have host object as a base class, and with this simple object, it's kind of proxy get, and in this proxy get, which we override from base class, we can call a method. So at this point, this sample works. Like for example, we can receive this property names add, and we can call it. And while this code works, it's obviously looks relatively big. So something what I would like to do to kind of make it a little bit smaller.
Okay.
I think it's working. It shows technique how it can be done.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the main goal was to with providing example was to verify that it can be done without needing to create new Node APIs. So if we can continue fleshing that out, that would be great. And then we can provide sort of that example in our documentation and also to this poster.
Right, and I think like in addition to this Node.js unit test, I probably want to add unit tests for C++ Node API. It's I believe developers looking how to move from None to a C++ Node API. So would be the ultimate fix.
Right, because you're doing this directly in core. Okay.
Right.
I see. So then you're using the underlying NAPI methods. I thought I saw one. Yeah, like this create int. Okay, gotcha. So then migrating that over. I don't know if it's really necessary to do it in both, but if you do have the time, that would be beneficial. Okay. Anything else to discuss on this before we move on? All right, and then we can continue. And the last one that we have, I think, is this callback scope one. So this issue was closed. So let's see what we have. Check with latest Node.js LTS, and the problem seems gone. Dissected through history and identified that this one fixed the problem. And then confirmed that when await is commented out, problem is gone too. So this is a problem with the old promise hooks. All right, so then it was due to this.
Yeah,
or rather
in
this
this
fixed it.
PR, the promise hook is switched to the new create JS function promise hooks instead of native promise hooks. So there is a overhaul of the promise hooks implementation. So I believe the problem is just fixed with the new implementation, and
Gotcha.
that's what we got.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Then let's see, can I edit? No. We will tell Nick to remove this one then. Did anyone else join the participants? I can't see that when I'm screen sharing.
Just checked a second ago. No one.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so that's it for stale issues. Then moving on, tracking issues for modules ported over. Nothing new here, but then we always go to Node add-on API for NPM. Weekly downloads right about 7 million. Does seem to be some odds up and downs here. Not sure what's going on there, but still getting good good usages. We did release the version 5. I guess you guys talked about that last week since it was 11 days ago. That's good. Then continuing on, drive towards full coverage. Jack, I do think you were on. So is there anything that you need help with or like to discuss?
No, nothing I can think of at the moment, but yeah, I'm just slowly making progress through the backlogs of the unit tests that we need coverage. I got my friend to work on one of them, so I think that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think hopefully we'll get this stuff, like this ticket closed by the end of the August, maybe. I think because we don't have that much gaps in our unit test coverage, just small gaps.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
One thing that I remember we had talked about was the coverage to create coverage automatically. This may be something to look into if you're getting a little tired of just writing all of the unit tests and you sort of want to make a context switch or whatnot.
Sure.
It could be useful to look into auto-generating the coverage files.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind.
Sure, thank you.
All right, then moving on, enable debug testing. This is something that Michael's working on, and I don't think there's been any additional work here. So continuing, burn down list of issues raised. I don't really think we use this. Yeah, we don't use this one anymore. So we can go to the repo for issues and PRs. Does anyone have any specifics that they would like to bring up? Okay, so there were a couple of new ones that I saw. I saw this one here for segmentation faults when creating a lot of objects. And then in his stack trace, it's a failure at global handles create. Not too sure what's going on with this one. And if it's something to do with objects, a lot of objects, I'm wondering if it has some issue with memory allocation. But I did think there was a different error that gets displayed if you have if you run out of heap. But I will ask here for a standalone repo that can reproduce this issue. Investigations. Discussed this in 13th May. All right. Thanks, Kevin. And hopefully we get some feedback with that. All right, there's that one. Then there's this one here that I also sort of looked at. And I'm not sure the best way to do this myself, so maybe we can talk about this here. He basically wants to be able to convert an NAPI buffer, so some sort of typed buffer, into a standard class, such as array or vector. And I've took a look a little on the documentation. Let's see here. Because I remember there's like a data pointer or something, or a data that returns a pointer. Returns a pointer to the external data. And I'm not I don't know if you can just pass this pointer to like a vector class or whatnot in order for that vector to use this data.
So I guess the question I would ask first, like, so from short description understood, they have some kind of JavaScript array and they want to use it as a vector. So
yes,
right. So think like, okay, they have some uint array and stuff. Okay. It is not possible to convert to vector without copying it. So if they want to copy, it's not an issue.
okay.
So
is there one that does not do copies? I think that's span, maybe.
Right. If they want to not to use copies, they need to use span, and span is actually part of C++20. It's not a part of kind of standard language. Or they can use something like a pseudo span, like initializer list. So initializer list to some extent can be used for that reason.
Gotcha.
But ideally, if they don't use uint array directly like this, but rather create a uint array based on external buffer. So external buffer can actually wrap up stud vector, right? And if they would expose some function to JavaScript, and this JavaScript function would create not uint array directly, but rather for special native function. So in this case, they can avoid the whole conversion because they can use other way around.
I see. Okay. So then they're basically they're creating the object in C++ and then passing that to the JavaScript layer and then modifying that object there. And this object would have an underlying std vector so that they could use that like a vector in C++. Okay, that makes sense. One thing regarding if they wanted to if they did a copy using the vector, would they be able to just pass this data pointer to the vector initializer or constructor?
Right. One of vector stud vector constructor accepts pointer to the data and length. So technically, passing these two guys data and length, you can create a copy of data if you like.
Okay. I think I did see something also in here. Because it may have a non-zero byte offset into the array buffer. But
this is a typed array which is built on top of untyped byte array. That's why I kind of.
I see.
It's like a view in some sense.
Yeah. So we have buffer, which is a uint8 array, which is a typed array of, and I remember seeing that because I was trying to follow the sort of class chain, and that's sort of where I saw where that data was defined. So going through all of that class hierarchy, from buffer we get to this typed array of. And this typed array of is where I saw this comment here.
Right. So imagine your array buffer will be kind of set of bytes, and typed array may need to kind of align data. Like imagine your byte array may start with, say, with alignment of bytes, but say your typed array may have some integers, and integers needs to be aligned by, say, 4 bytes. So it may happen that they may start not with offset 0, but may start with offset 1, 2, 3, just to make sure that we have data aligned. So I think it's I think it's what comment talks about.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that inherits from uint8 array. And that uint8 array goes to this typed array of, and it's here we have again data, which is to point to the start of the array. I'm trying to see where, okay, and then this inherits from typed array. I'm trying to look for that buffer offset, byte offset rather. Okay, returns the offset into the array buffer where the array starts in bytes, and then returns the length of the array in bytes. Okay.
I think speaking for typed array of bytes, which actually uint8 is, this I would expect this byte offset will be always 0. At least.
Okay.
But for us, what's important, it's important to have is just real data stuff, like a data points where you point in the beginning, and then it must have a number of elements, which is what actually needed for stud vector.
Right. Okay. So let's go with this. Okay. Oh, it's Friday the 13th. Okay. Node-API meeting.
Everybody watched the movie, right?
We thought of 2 different approaches. Okay. One, you may be able to use the buffers data and what was it, length? Let's make sure that is right. Data and length, yes. And and then second was the if you use an external class that wraps an vector
think it's called. I think that's the way it's can be done. Like we have external buffer, right? And then we're creating type array. We can create type array on top of buffer. Is it correct?
I don't recall an external buffer. We have external and we have buffer. I don't think there was anything called external buffer though. No.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know like much about C++ Node API, but in C that I believe we do have a create external buffer on the C side, like JS native JS underscore native API.h.
Okay. Let's see if I can do a search in here. Oh, this create external buffer.
Or external array for the sake. Yeah.
Yeah, external array buffer and external buffer. Okay.
Yeah, external array buffer.
The underlying byte buffer is externally allocated and managed. Caller must ensure that the byte buffer remains valid until the finalized callback.
So it's possible to effectively kind of allocate with stud vector, and finalizer would actually destroy this stud vector. And then we accessing, and we actually can take beginning of end of this stud vector. So it's possible to wrap it up.
I see. Okay.
I'm not sure if C++ Node-API wraps it up somewhere. Oh, you see it does here, right?
Yes. The array buffer new. When you pass, okay, if you pass the data and the byte length, then it uses the external array buffer. I see, okay. But I think, so if you were to, create the array, if you were to create the vector and then pass that vector into, pass the vector's data and size to this array buffer, this new array buffer, and then he modifies the array buffer in the JavaScript side, would those changes then be replicated to the underlying STD vector?
It must, as long as we're not changing size. I think we're not allowed to change size. We're not allowed to add elements, but we're allowed to change elements.
Right. Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong. If you go back, I think if you scroll down, there should be some overloads for constructor which receives finalizer, and there is probably also finalizer hint, right? So, for example, vector itself can be passed as finalizer hint over here, and then if this finalizer callback will actually call and being able to destroy this vector. So now it's not needed anymore.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So it was more that the array buffer, let me give a link to it then. Array buffer. New with external, this one. This new. Okay. The JavaScript side. Should be propagated.
Don't take my word on it because I never done it. So I hope it's possible to
I mean, it makes sense logically to me. So yeah, I mean that's let's just go with it. And these changes should be propagated to the underlying data pointer, underlying data stored in the std vector.
Or they can create native method which whatever array of data they pass in, like in this example, they can pass to native code. And native code can create a vector with all this data and stuff. So it's definitely should be possible. In this case, they don't need to modify it on JavaScript side. They just
Right. I'm a little unsure as to his specific use case. So I think leaving these two general options here. And then hopefully he'll be able to get some insight from those.
let's mention third option, like we discussed, using stud span. It's so technically, in this case, they don't need to copy, and they just simply can use kind of pass data and length to span. So it will be most efficient way, I guess. Cool.
Okay, let's put that as number 2 then. Since okay. Let's look at this preview. You may be able to use the buffer's data and length in the vector constructor. You can also use, which is not a perform copy, like the vector. The array new method, wiggle for new, allows passing a pointer to data and the length. You'll be able to modify the data of the wiggle from the JavaScript, but not the size, and these changes should be propagated to the underlying data stored in the vector. All right, that looks good to me. Anyone have any question or anything before we go? All right, let's comment. Okay, and we can close tabs to the right. And I think Nick had responded to this one with this. Okay, we may not have an async iterator that can be created from the C or the C++ size. This poster wants to be able to use async iterators like this. I don't think we have a way to construct those simply but aren't iterators just like an object that provides like a next and finished?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
need expose a special symbol on the object, like say symbol async iterator.
Right. So we may be able to accomplish this again with just with our existing APIs, as long as what we return from the, for example, from this invoke method has the correct structure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think here. I may be able to, I think I can try tackling this. And then if I can get something to work, then we can throw that in the examples. Okay. Is it next? Is it next and finished? I can't remember. Iterators. value and done. Okay, value and done.
It talks about async operators. It means like we kind of returning some kind of promises, right? Like.
Right. I think that would mean that the value that you provide returns a promise. Instead of just
no, it's next return a promise, and the promise resolves with a object which has a value and done properties.
I see. Okay. You know, I'm not going to actually put that. And then I'll say, I will try to create an example, and then we can, I can analyze that when I'm doing the example creation. I create an example for you and publish it in the okay. I'll give a comment with this, and I will assign this to myself so I don't forget it. All right. Then I think that's it for all of the new ones. Let me just quickly open this one up. I think Michael had responded to this already. Yes, talking about shrink and queues and things like that. Michael had requested him to try some stuff, so we will wait on this one for some comments from the original poster. All right, so I think that's it from the Node add-on API side. Let's look at polls. Callback new target unit test and add promise unit test. Okay. Jack, you had mentioned that you had one of your friends work on some unit tests. Are any of these looking familiar to you?
It's add promise unit test.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. For the environment, I remember seeing this one. Okay. We can look at that and
sorry, I'll be back in a second.
Yep. In the new target. Value new target callback, return info, a new target.
This hasn't happened for like forever.
Are you serious? This is my first time I'm hearing it.
Jack, could you mute?
Really messy.
No, it's fine. I don't know what to do.
Jack, could you
call
mute?
somebody, like what?
I don't know them either. Do you know these?
I mute him.
No, she just moved in.
There we go. Okay. All right, so I think this one is okay with this promise environment. That one's fine. I'm trying to sort of figure out what is going on with this one. A test for new target callback, function new target callback. Assert strict equal, he calls the function new target callback, binding, okay. I'm not exactly sure what this new target does. And this is in callback info. Let's see if we can just quickly look at that.
New target is whenever you call a function as a constructor. So I think it's a new target as a object being constructed.
Yes, okay. Right, okay, so he is checking here that when you call the new, the target is this new target callback. And that new target callback is New target callback. Are these in the same function? Exports new target is this. Am I reading this correctly in that he is going to overwrite this export here of new target callback function new, and this would be the data that gets passed with this one, function new. And he may have just added this one twice. Okay, I'll take a look at that one as well. But I think we can go ahead and approve the other. And we can go ahead and approve this one. This one was just checking for the end of deferred. Okay, so I'll go ahead and approve this. All right, then that is it for Node add-on API. I guess we have a couple more minutes left. Is there anything to discuss on the core side? I know that there's those open PRs that you have. Moros? Yes, okay. Have you gotten any feedback on any of your PRs?
I don't think so, but the second one, it seems to be good to go. It has signed, it's approved, and everything is green. Need to someone to press this magic button.
Right. Okay. And then Michael had approved it. It's not, was already the default. Okay. Yeah. All right. I remember this one. And then this one, the new ref type was also approved.
No, I think it's not really approved from our team. So
from this person here. Okay. And what
yes,
was his last
our
comment?
team looks through stuff. And
oh
yeah. I need to fix this one. Oops.
Yes,
okay, let's go on my side.
No worries. And then there is two more. Where'd they go here? Yes. The Finalizer Split and the second pass split. I remember this one.
Second pass, I don't look at this. It's kind of, I consider maybe close it completely. It's probably not. It's what this splitting finalizers in two types effectively supersedes this one.
Okay. Okay. And then we had, oh, so you think that once this splitting the finalizers would, then we wouldn't need this other one then, the second pass?
I only think like I may modify it to keep this global handler of finalizer errors, but some other Node.js developers express their kind of concerns that don't like approach at all. So thankfully, I probably will just go ahead and close it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see this. She said like.
Yeah. Okay. Is this something similar to how there's like a global uncaught exception handler or something like that?
Yeah, the proposal was like actual each node module authors they can subscribe to only kind of error specific to their module, rather than have something global pure the whole Node.js application. Okay. All right. Like just to modify it, just to keep this handler, but it sounds like people don't like it. I don't know if it's worth to continue with.
Gotcha.
There are experiences that people are very concerned about adding new error handling mechanisms. Like say, previously we have built-in modules like domains to add a new layer over the exception handling, which ended up deprecated and people are getting rid of it. So in my opinion, it's unlikely to add a new error handling mechanism to the Node core just for without many convincing use cases.
Gotcha.
So you're saying that your opinion that we should just get rid of it, right? We should not do it, right?
I mean, if we do it, we need to get more convincing use cases, but I think currently we don't have such case.
Right.
Okay.
What was the reason that you had created this error handler in the first place?
I was thinking like we do have, if people have issues with all these errors and they can handle them pure module, like sometimes if you have a big team of developers working on some code, you may not know like if people writing the code which does not throw exceptions for whatever reason. And I was thinking it will be beneficial in some cases for people to capture them and produce their own errors. So it's kind of like a safety net, if you like. But
I see.
Yeah, it's
what happens currently if there's an exception in the finalizer?
current code, because we do it as part of
sorry,
Go ahead,
you
sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I mean, in my PR that addresses the unhandled exception, there are some finalizers are not handled. I need to pick up the memories which finalizer are not handling, which handler are suppressing the unhandled exception. But I mean, there are some callbacks are not handled properly in the case. But I mean, Node.js already have the global exception handlers like process unhandled exception event. So I believe that's a promising way to let people to handle the globally unhandled exceptions.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have anything to discuss? We've got a couple minutes left.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Then I guess we can go ahead and close the meeting for this week. I will catch you all online and I'll see you next week.